Tonight, cracks in a shaky ceasefire endanger a brittle peace plan. The bone-chilling footage of Hamas in Gaza.
Is this really a peace deal, or is this only a hostage release deal plus a temporary ceasefire?
And a new warning from Donald Trump. Which former U.S. president is starring in a new Ontario PR campaign targeting Americans, and why? And deadly consequences for an unsuspecting victim.
He was screaming out, "I want my mom, I want my mom. I'm dying, I want mom."
The extraordinary tactics of a Canadian cartel to fuel New Zealand's growing meth addiction.
CTV National News with Omar Sachedina.
Good evening. The fragile peace deal between Israel and Hamas is being severely tested tonight. Donald Trump today issuing a new warning to Hamas as families continue the anxious wait for the remains of hostages killed in captivity. And there was also a price tag on the cost of rebuilding Gaza, ravaged by the war. CTV's Heather Wright reports again from Tel Aviv tonight.
The remains of 4 more hostages were returned to Israel tonight. An emotional and painful homecoming that some families are still waiting for.
Right now, in 2 years of not moving on, for us it's one long day of struggle.
Rotem Cooper's father, Amiram, was 85 years old when he was kidnapped from Kibbutz Nir Oz on October 7th. He was killed in captivity. His body is still in Gaza. Families were aware that all 28 deceased hostages would not be returned yesterday, but they hoped they would be able to give more proper burials.
It's very clear that Hamas is playing games, that Hamas is not really cooperating, is not really in good faith.
Hamas has said it will take time to find all the bodies, as they don't know where they are all located. In response and to pressure, Hamas Israel says it will delay the reopening of the Rafah border crossing and reduce the amount of aid it allows in by half, according to the United Nations.
I think this will be a very long journey. We need to remain on course.
Today, bulldozers began clearing piles of rubble in Gaza City, an important step in allowing people to return. But with limited equipment and widespread destruction, it will take time.
We don't have enough equipment, enough loaders or bulldozers to carry out this work.
As Gaza begins the lengthy process of rebuilding, questions remain about the durability of this ceasefire and the future of the enclave, where Hamas has been trying to reassert itself in recent days. There have been reports of clashes with rival gangs in some areas, as well as this video, which reportedly shows Hamas fighters rounding up several men for a public execution.
The bottom line is this really a peace deal, or is this only a hostage release deal plus a temporary ceasefire? It's still unclear, but I'm fearful that it's more the latter than the former.
Today, the United Nations put a price tag on how much it will cost to rebuild the enclave. $70 billion, with at least $20 billion needed over the next 3 years. Omar.
Heather Wright in Tel Aviv tonight. Heather, thank you. Now back to that ultimatum and warning we told you about from Donald Trump to Hamas to disarm.
They will disarm, and if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently.
Trump also weighed in on a photo of himself on the cover of Time magazine that called Trump's role in the ceasefire deal his triumph. In a social media post, Trump wrote, "The picture may be the worst of all time. They disappeared my hair and then had something floating on top of my head that looked like a floating crown, but an extremely small one. Really weird." Trump also followed through with his threat to ramp up the trade war with Canada. New tariffs are now in effect. CTV's senior political correspondent Michael Couture on the industries taking yet another hit.
Some are calling it devastation on top of an already bad situation. With new tariffs taking effect today on lumber and some furniture, the head of one company is worried about his firm's future.
We used to employ 400 people. Now we are less than 100. That was before the 45% duties.
With the additional levy added at midnight, lumber producers now face 45% tariffs on softwood. There's also a 25% tax on furniture like kitchen cabinets and vanities. On January 1st, that will double to 50%.
This additional tariff means that Canadian wood has a higher tariff rate going to the United States than Russia does.
It's going to mean a loss of jobs. It's going to mean a loss of economic activity. It hits, and it hits in a really serious way.
The Canadian Kitchen Cabinet Association represents 3,700 companies, and many of their goods go south.
Some of them were exporting up to 80% of their product to the U.S. I mean, some of these companies employ 500 people, and they just can't turn around on a dime.
The association wants the federal government to institute a Buy Canadian provision on taxpayer-funded housing projects to favor local companies, while the forestry industry wants Canadian and American negotiators to make lumber a priority in the ongoing trade talks.
We get this is complex. There are a lot of balls in the air here. But in the last week, our workers in forestry are not feeling like we're a priority.
In an interview on CTV's Question Period, Industry Minister Melanie Joly said the federal government is focused on negotiating deals for all industries affected by tariffs, including lumber. Omar.
All right, Mike, thank you. Ontario is taking its anti-tariff message directly to Americans and invoking the voice of a late Republican president.
Rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
That is Ronald Reagan from a 1987 address against tariffs. It's part of a new ad from the Ontario government.
It's not a nasty ad. It's actually just very factual, and coming from a person like Ronald Reagan, every Republican is going to identify that voice.
Now, the cost of the ad campaign is $75 million, and it will air in the U.S. on major American networks over the next 2 weeks. Auto giant Stellantis is driving some of its production away from Canada to the U.S. It has announced plans to move production of its Jeep Compass from Brampton, Ontario to Illinois, after previously pausing production at the Brampton plant earlier this year. The company is planning to invest $13 billion to expand production in Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana, and add about 5,000 new jobs. As for the impact on Canadian jobs, Prime Minister Mark Carney said in a statement today's decision is a direct consequence of current U.S. tariffs. Adding together with the government of Ontario and Unifor, we're working with the company to develop the right measures to protect Stellantis employees and to create new opportunities for them in and around Brampton. China's economic quid pro quo to drop punishing tariffs on Canadian pork and canola if Canada scraps tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles is dividing Canada's premiers. CTV's Annie Bergeron-Oliver on the internal tensions as China says overseas exports of its EVs have doubled from a year ago.
Chinese EV brands like Warren Buffett-backed BYD are revving up their presence in Asia and Europe. But steep tariffs have the vehicles locked out of North American markets.
There's no damn way we should drop tariffs on China, I'll tell you that. Absolutely not.
But that's not how all the premiers feel. The premiers of Manitoba and Saskatchewan want Ottawa to scrap its 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles, now that China is pledging to lift its punishing tariffs on Canadian pork and canola in exchange.
If the EV tariffs are removed, then China will also remove the tariffs on the relevant products of Canada.
And that would go a long way to help ease the stress felt by producers like canola farmer Cody Nagy.
We don't know what the price is going to be a month from now or 6 months from now. So going into planning for next year, how do we know how many acres of canola to plant for?
But while farmers are feeling the financial hit now, experts in the Canadian auto sector fear a bleaker future if cheaper Chinese-made cars start flowing in.
We cannot allow it to happen. These are subsidized vehicles, and they would attempt to take market share from Canadian North American manufacturers without agreeing to trade on a level playing field.
The federal government has said it's reviewing the EV tariffs, a move that will likely come up later this week when the Foreign Affairs Minister meets with her counterpart in China. Omar?
All right, Annie, thank you. Another country Canada is trying to repair its relationship with is India. And today the Foreign Affairs Minister said there was some movement.
We are building back to a complement of Canadian diplomats across the country.
Anita Anand is in India meeting with government officials. She says the diplomatic presence needs to be restored before trade talks can be revived. She also met Prime Minister Narendra Modi on this trip. The countries expelled each other's diplomats after Canada accused India of playing a role in the assassination of a Sikh activist in BC. The group Sikhs for Justice says Ottawa is prioritizing trade over the safety of Canadians. And we have breaking news from Newfoundland and Labrador tonight. The Progressive Conservatives are projected to form a majority government, ending a decade of Liberal rule. PC leader Tony Wakeham is set to become the next Premier, unseating Liberal leader John Hogan. We heard from the Premier-designate moments ago.
We didn't quit. We kept believing in each other because we knew it wasn't over until that final buzzer and all the votes are counted. And tonight, we all know it because we all feel it. There is nothing quite like a comeback.
And let's get right to PC headquarters, where NTV's Bailey Howard is standing by in the middle of the victory party. Bailey.
Well, Omar, what a night to be here in Stephenville, where we just heard from Premier-designate Tony Wakeham, the leader of the PC party. It's been a long 4 weeks on the road as we traveled along with that campaign to the Northern Peninsula, to Labrador, to the Burin Peninsula, the Southwest Coast, and more. And we heard many of the commitments that the PC leader, now Premier-designate, made during that time. That included promises of 4 new ferries for the province, a referendum, a binding referendum that he would hold for the Churchill Falls MOU, which has been a big point during this election, as well as tuition refunds for students and an increase to the seniors benefit. That was just some of the commitments he made in his $284 million campaign platform. Now tonight there was a lot of energy in the room as we waited to see what was going to happen here in Stephenville. You know, there was a lot up in the air whether it was going to be a PC minority, a PC majority, a Liberal government, and here we are in Stephenville where Tony Wakeham, who was first elected in 2019, re-elected in 2021, and it was 2 years ago to the day today that he was elected the leader of the PC party at their leadership convention. So we've been here talking to folks on the ground and hearing about what this looks like moving forward following the election today. And we're hearing a lot of excitement from residents and from Tony Wakeham's family, who was here. His wife Patricia and his son Chris were also here in the crowd. And we'll continue to follow this journey as the Premier-designate begins this new role. Back to you, Omar.
All right, Bailey Howard in Stephenville for us tonight. Bailey Howard in Newfoundland and Labrador. Thank you for that. On the West Coast, a flurry of gunshots were fired at a BC home, hitting a woman while she was sleeping.
Everybody's scared, especially children. It's not a good situation.
A bullet went through an exterior wall and unfortunately and tragically hit them.
It's believed to be the first time a person was hurt during a recent series of extortion-related shootings in Surrey. Police say the woman is recovering in hospital and do not believe she was targeted.
There were 3 patients that were taken to local hospitals with minor injuries and 4 with life-threatening injuries.
7 workers were rushed to hospital after a gas explosion at a construction site in Toronto. It happened this morning in the mechanical room on the building's 22nd floor. Canada Post has resumed mail delivery, but not for everyone and not all the time. The union representing postal workers has implemented rotating work stoppages during the ongoing strike. Here's CTV's Paul Hollingsworth.
Postal worker Sam Metzler is back, doing his daily rounds.
It's definitely a little awkward to be back without, a contract.
Metzler's strike pay was a fraction of his Canada Post earnings, and he's relieved to be making his regular wage again.
It is a little nice being back to work, that's for sure. And then, get some money in our bank accounts.
According to the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, the rotating strike is aimed at reducing disruptions and to provide postal employees with a financial boost.
Start moving the mail for the customers and also take some of the pressure off the members.
The strike began September 25th. It's the second work stoppage within a year. Canada Post says it's waiting to hear back from the union on its latest offer, and as employees return to work, customers should expect delays in processing and delivery. Artist Suzanne O'Callaghan ships 7,000 paintings a year and says even a short-term pause to the strike gives her business a chance to survive.
I am so happy. I mean, I just hugged all the people that
working there.
The union expects the rotating strike to eventually impact this province, but workers may only get several hours' notice before their next work stoppage, which means they are taking a day-to-day approach as they return to work. Paul Hollingsworth, CTV News, Halifax.
Coming up.
You've got some really significant sophistication up there.
How a Canadian cartel became a top drug dealer in New Zealand. A new series of W5 begins tonight with a shocking revelation. Canada is the biggest drug exporter of meth to New Zealand. In part one, Avery Haynes investigates how the death of a young innocent man in Auckland exposed the Canadian cartel pipeline.
At a storage unit in Auckland, New Zealand, a man carries out cases of beer from Canada. Just days later, an innocent victim would die from that beer.
My brother was charismatic, the life of the house.
21-year-old Aidan Segala lived with his sister Angela and brother-in-law Billy in Auckland. One day, Aidan came home with free beer that his boss had given him. He took one gulp.
He was screaming out, I want my mom, I want my mom. I'm dying, I want mom.
I said, Mom! And I said, here, I'm here. I'm here, son. I'm here.
Rushed to hospital, Aidan spent 6 days in a coma. He died of multiple organ failure from a lethal dose of methamphetamine, an illegal and highly addictive synthetic stimulant. Aidan's brother-in-law started dumping out the cans. Some were filled with beer, but not all.
And I was like, hey, wait, this looks like liquid glue that's coming out of this can.
Police raided the rented storage unit where Aidan's manager had been captured on camera removing cases of beer. An officer videotapes and describes the staggering scene they found inside.
It was very confined. I could barely walk around.
Towering pallets of beer made in Canada, complete with a maple leaf logo, and white crystals blanketing almost every surface. Buckets of it. 700 kilos of liquid meth being crystallized.
You have the right to remain silent.
Aidan Segala's manager, later convicted of manslaughter, was getting rid of the excess beer, not knowing some cans still contained meth. New Zealand is in the midst of a meth crisis, and shockingly, Canada is fueling that addiction. The two largest busts in New Zealand history both originated in Canada, hidden in beer and this.
These 713 kilos of meth came from Canada, hidden in maple syrup.
It's kind of sad in some ways that we keep coming and saying we're getting bigger and bigger seizures.
In 2023, New Zealand seized more meth from Canada than anywhere else in the world. In 2024, the most intercepts involved meth from Canada, 171, about 3 meth seizures from Canada every single week.
Just this tonnage coming our way out of Canada.
Detective Superintendent Greg Williams is the director of New Zealand's National Organised Crime Group.
You have a reasonably dynamic organised crime environment in Canada. From what we're seeing, the scale of it, you've got some really significant sophistication up there.
And coming up tomorrow, Avery follows the meth pipeline from Canada to New Zealand, chasing leads that police here did not follow. Still ahead, what actor Alec Baldwin is saying after a car crash in New York. Alec Baldwin says he and his brother Stephen were unharmed after a car crash in Long Island, New York. The actor was driving with his brother on Monday afternoon when their white SUV went off the road and slammed into a tree. In a video posted online, the 67-year-old says he swerved to avoid a garbage truck.
To avoid hitting him, I hit a tree. I hit a big fat tree and crushed my car, my wife's car.
No traffic citations were issued, and Baldwin says he's grateful that no one was injured. The crash occurred shortly after the brothers attended the Hamptons International Film Festival. A lithium-ion battery and a curious dog are being blamed for sparking a house fire in North Carolina. Home security video shows the device bursting into flames moments after Colton broke the safety seal and chewed into it. The fire was out within minutes, and the 5-year-old rescue was frightened but unharmed. A legendary R&B singer described as a modern visionary has died.
Send it up, send it send it up back to you.
The family of D'Angelo confirmed his death after a prolonged battle with cancer. D'Angelo's debut album in 1995 pushed the boundaries of the genre, helping usher the neo-soul movement. He was nominated for 14 Grammys and won 4 of them over his career. D'Angelo was 51. Still ahead, the curveballs being thrown at Blue Jays fans thinking of traveling to Seattle. Blue Jays fans are used to traveling to Seattle for away games, but tomorrow's pivotal Game 3 playoff matchup might look a lot different this time around. CTV's Ben Milger tells us why.
The Blue Jays feel right at home in Seattle's T-Mobile Park, thanks to the support of Canadian fans who make the trip from British Columbia.
590, that's down the first baseline, 590.
With the Jays and Mariners competing for a spot in the World Series, demand for tickets has skyrocketed, along with the prices.
As soon as they knew that they were going up against Seattle, my phone messages were inundated with people wanting to get tickets for the Jays.
On Tuesday afternoon, the cheapest ticket for Game 3 was $266 Canadian dollars on StubHub. A spot in a suite behind home plate for Friday's potential Game 5 is listed for over $4 grand. Prices and politics could determine the size of the Canadian crowd.
Yes, but not as big as it used to be because of the American stuff. Like, I'm not going there, period. So I'm not going to see the games.
Seattle, leading 2-0, can reach their first ever World Series with 2 more victories.
Do you anticipate that there will be a lot of Canadian fans who manage to get tickets for tomorrow night's game?
I don't think it'll happen this time. I think Seattleites will buy up the tickets and not sell to Toronto fans.
Ticket broker Kingsley Bailey says demand on the Canadian side has dipped since the Jays dropped the first 2 games. But if they win one of the next 2, he expects prices to soar for Game 5.
Seattle hasn't gone to the playoffs for such a long time, so there's such a demand for that. And then you throw that into the fact that they're going up against a Canadian team and everybody's going to go down the I-5 to catch a game. So the demand is huge for tickets.
The Jays will be looking to extend the series and get home to the real friendly confines of the Rogers Centre for Games 6 and 7. Ben Milger, CTV News, Vancouver.
And that's a snapshot of this Tuesday for all of us at CTV National News. Thank you for watching. Good night and see you tomorrow.